About the fourth or fifth day that we were working, Burt Reynolds stopped everything as everyone, right before everyone was starting to set up. He said, I just want to make this, I just want to have this, I have something to say, I just want to say this. And he said this thing, he said, and we're all kind of looking around like, well,
good or bad,
what's he
right?
going to say? Yeah. He said, that guy over there, and he pointed at me, he said, that guy reminds me of the best production assistant I ever worked with, who then went on to become the best assistant director I ever worked with. And then for the last 30 years, he's been the best producer I've ever worked with. I just wanted to point that out. And like the crew does, there's that slow clap that Bill, it was like incredible.
We're going to start with a hard one.
All right.
Well, first, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Yeah. What is an AD?
An AD is just short. It's the initials for assistant director. And there are levels of assistant directors. There's what I do is called I'm a first assistant director. I have a staff of other assistant directors. There's the key second assistant director or AD. And also second assistant directors, and then after that it's just additional seconds. So, and the first assistant director's job is really, that's the person who, once the film has been greenlighted and they're going to make the film, either the studio or network or producers, whoever, the first job is to take the script and to go through it scene by scene, break the script down, and then come up with a plan, a blueprint for how you're going to shoot the script. Normally, you don't shoot in chronological order, and then you generally lump the locations together. So you go to the one location that has 10 scenes, and you shoot all those scenes. Then you go to another location, you shoot those scenes, etc. And in addition to the scheduling component, you also are responsible for designing everything that's going on in the background with the extras, or what we call background, or sometimes they're referred to as atmosphere. So what you're trying to do back there is you're trying to create a realistic world that's going on in the background, whether it's cars driving by a closed street, the people walking, the pedestrians walking, or the shoppers, or the hobo who's digging some beer bottles out of the trash, or whatever that world is. If it's a hospital setting, you've got doctors, you've got patients, you've got all the staff that supports the hospital moving around in the background, just so it doesn't look sterile and false.
Yeah,
so you're trying to create a realistic background. Yeah.
Yeah, having worked on a bunch of sets, my two favorite departments, I don't want to disparage other departments, but AD department, like, clearly it's the grease and the fuel that makes the whole engine run. Without it, I don't know how you do anything. And then art department too. I feel like art department always gets the short end of the stick.
They do.
Yeah.
And one of that job, the first assistant director, also incorporates so many other things. You're also the liaison from the crew to the director, or often, if there's a problem, maybe there was a prop that they were supposed to have and they don't have it for whatever reason. Sometimes they'd feel more comfortable going to sort of an intermediary to let them know, and then the AD would go to the director and say, "Hey, we don't have this."
Yep.
And it's like in The Godfather. We got a lot of buffers. You're a buffer here.
Well, and the seconds are dealing with cast, right? So then you get pulled into cast stuff too.
I get to avoid that completely. I work with a wonderful key second who, I call her the czar of the base camp. She deals with the hair, makeup, costume team down there once we start shooting. And, she gets all the people organized and gives the call times to the actors, etc., based on our crew call and when we need to have them ready. And, all of these jobs are absolutely faceless, thankless. And if everything goes right, great job to the director and producers for hiring the right team. If anything goes wrong, it's going to be blamed on the assistant directors generally.
Yeah. I mean, you're wearing like 16 different hats, right?
You are
field general, but you're also a therapist and
drinking buddy, counselor, confidant, bon vivant. it covers the whole, radar scope.
I know, like my on sets, my AD, I'm often like, I will say things to them that I won't repeat to anybody because I know that they're going to keep it quiet.
Yeah.
It's just a place to vent some of those frustrations and like,
And there's a lot of frustrations that come up, because especially when you're dealing in a creative medium, like filmmaking, you have a certain sense and a vision in your mind, and the job is to translate that through the machinery that is production. And it's always, it can be exciting and exhilarating when it works well and you get the happy surprises. That's the wonderful part of it. Other times though, the sun is in the wrong place, or something like we mentioned, maybe there's a prop that was kind of pivotal that's not there, and then you have to come up with these creative solutions
constant
to
problem
make it
solving.
work. That's what it is. And anticipating.
Right.
I think the problem anticipation is something you develop over a course of doing this stuff over
Yeah.
and over and for many years.
You can
And
see it coming.
you can see it coming, and you can warn, the conductor of the train, hey, the bridge is out just, 100 yards ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And people can either listen to that or they can ignore it. And
And you can say, I told you.
yeah, you try not to say that.
You can feel it.
You can feel it. And, but if you say it, you kind of,
Yeah. No, you got to be,
try to avoid it.
you got to
gotta be a
swallow
little bit
that.
diplomatic. Yeah.
Yeah. What's one of the bigger misconceptions about being a first AD?
Oh, the main one is, oh yeah, the AD is just some Luddite that just stands on the set and screams at people. And you would be surprised how many inexperienced producers, directors, they believe that. They love that because, I think it just, and there's some very successful assistant directors who have, taken on that style. I just never found that to be an effective thing, because when you're working on a film that you're going to shoot from anywhere from 15 days to 75 days or more, this, the cliche of being a family is often employed, but you really are, counting on people in departments and the people that make up those departments to be prepared, to have your back, because you're building this incredible souffle. And whoever's got the flour, great, they bring that. Someone else brings the egg, someone else brings the whisk, and you need all of these elements to make something really special and to capture something and to make a difference in people's lives. Because at the end of the day, people want, they want that magic. They want to go into that darkened room and have that smell of popcorn on the floor and be amazed, entertained, or invigorated or inspired. When you really hit the home run, you're really trying to inspire people to be better. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of magic, you've worked with like some incredible directors in the past.
and I have been blessed.
Yeah. Is there anything? Well earned. I'm sure your phone keeps ringing for a reason, right?
Yeah, pay the bill.
Right.
It's Xfinity here.
Right. Have you thought about extending the warranty on your car? Yeah. Yeah.
No, I've been blessed to be able to work with some incredible artists.
Was there anything consistent amongst them that you said that, or that you could say would lead to that fantastic artistry?
I think one of the best feelings, probably not just for an assistant director, but for any crew member or anyone that's in partnership with someone trying to do something, is the sense that you really contributed to the creation of something bigger than the individual. And when directors make you their partner and really team up with you to create something really cool, that's an incredible feeling. We were doing a movie called Broken Bridges, and it was Toby Keith's first movie as an actor. He was an incredible country
R.I.P.
artist. Yeah, R.I.P. definitely. But he was an incredible guy, and on that film, he played a father of a teenage daughter and they had kind of this broken relationship, and but Burt Reynolds played the father in the movie, and we had a director who had kind of gotten the job because he had done a bunch of country music videos for a bunch of artists. So he was hired to direct the film. He had never directed a feature before, though, and I think he was a little bit reticent, or I don't know, possibly even intimidated a bit when Burt Reynolds came to work for the
I mean,
first
who wouldn't
time.
be, right?
I know. Me being, a guy who grew up in Duluth, Minnesota, I knew Burt Reynolds from, his movie career and
Smokey.
the Smokey and the Bandit movies, and a film Deliverance, was, an incredible film. And his first day, he came to work, and he had a pre-call before the crew call. And, he arrived, and he was in the base camp, and I went down to, introduce myself and just kind of walk through the call sheet with him and let him know, okay, this is that first scene, probably, finish this up roughly around lunchtime. And after that, we got 2 smaller scenes, and you're not in the last scene of the day, so we'll be able to let you go after we finish these scenes. And we just, he was so professional and such a absolute pro, and he was so cool. And I think it was a lost opportunity for our director on that film, because I think on that first day, especially with a veteran like that, just to be there, introduce yourself, say hello, kind of talk to the person.
So he didn't see him until he came on set?
Until he came on the set.
kidding.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And, so about the 4th or 5th day that we were working, we'd just done the blocking rehearsal right at the beginning of the morning, and the actors normally go back to finish up their hair and makeup and wardrobe and everything. And Burt Reynolds stopped everything as everyone, right before everyone was starting to set up. He said, I just want to make this, I just want to have this, I have something to say, I just want to say this. And he said this thing, he said, and we're all kind of looking around like, oh,
Good or bad,
what's he
right?
going to say? Yeah. He said, that guy over there, and he pointed at me, he said, that guy reminds me of the best production assistant I ever worked with, who then went on to become the best assistant director I ever worked with. And then for the last 30 years, he's been the best producer I've ever worked with. I just wanted to point that out. And like the crew does, there's that slow clap that Bill, it was like incredible. And I don't think that would have ever happened had I not just been there that first morning.
Yeah.
And, didn't do anything really special. Just wanted to welcome him and recognize his gravitas in the industry for a 50-year career, and
Yeah.
and let him know what it meant to me as a kid growing up in Minnesota, and
Yeah.
and just wanted to thank him. And
Yeah. I mean, you have a logistics job to do, but you invested in the collaboration, right? And
yes,
you empowered a collaborator because you're collaborators.
right.
And yeah, he appreciated that because sometimes, I mean, those film sets are running so fast, you don't have time for that all the time.
You don't.
Right?
You
But
don't.
if you don't make time for it, it makes things worse.
See, and that's the case, because the challenge is always, at some point, you're going to need a favor from the crew. You're going to need people to go that extra distance. If you're working with a child actor, that clock is always ticking because they have limited hours that they can work. And at the end, you're kind of in a rush to get that last shot of that kid before the teacher's over there leading him off the set by the hand,
Yep.
And so you have to find a way and a manner. You need both. You need the skill set to be able to be kind of a diplomat, and you also need to be able to communicate verbally and non-verbally sometimes to instill that sense of urgency and professionalism. Because at the end of the day, you got to make your days, and
Yeah.
have limited time to do it.
Yeah. Well, fingers will be pointing at you if you don't, right?
Oh, they're pointed at me anyway. I'm the most pointed at. I think all ADs are the
Yeah.
most pointed at crew members.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, listen, like I said, if everything goes right, the producer director get the credit. If anything goes wrong, it's damn ADs. They don't know nothing.
Like that. I don't agree.
Yell louder.
Right.
Crack the whip louder.
Yeah.
Beat him until morale improves.
Yeah. That works until it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Yeah. You've also had the opportunity to work with a ton of incredible female directors.
Yes, I have.
Were you just born smart, or was this learned along the way?
Well, I was blessed to have an absent father, I guess. So I had strong female, role models in my family. My mom, my grandmother, my sister were all very independent, very smart women. I early on realized the inequity of what women were being paid versus men for the same job. And I think if you experience that, especially with someone who's a caretaker, a parent, someone like that, you see, hey, that's unfair. And I think if you just have a sensitivity to that, I think you tend to, you gravitate in those directions. Now, I was really blessed at the very early part of my career too, because my third feature film that I did as an assistant director, or first assistant director, was Kids. And that was, to get to the director, there were 3 female producers and production managers that had to give me the blessing to meet the director. And Christine Vachon was the producer. And,
Legend.
Yeah, legend, absolute legend. Lauren Zalaznik was one of the producers, and she went on to run, a network. And Pam Koffler, who works with Christine to this day, that was the producing team, along with Larry Clark, who was the director. And that was Larry's first movie.
And Harmony
Korine was the
wrote it.
writer on it. Yep, absolutely. And, had I been some jerk, I think that they would have seen through that pretty clear.
Well, I wanted to talk about that movie a little bit too, because
It's one of my favorites.
right, I actually worked with Leo Fitzpatrick.
Oh, did you really?
A few years ago. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what he had to say.
He was a nice guy.
Yeah.
Just a couple days, so I didn't get to know him too well.
Yeah.
But so working with a lot of like non-actors,
Mhm.
kids.
There wasn't a single actor on that
Yeah.
film.
I mean, Chloe was. She just didn't know it yet.
She wasn't an actor yet.
Yeah.
She was a model, and she was hanging out in the village, in this sort of skateboard culture and, new music and new fashion. But she ended up on that film because there was, I'm going to retract that. There was one actress on the movie. She was hired. She flew in from Los Angeles. When she demanded her hair and makeup team, her contract ended abruptly.
Not that kind of movie.
It was not that kind of a movie, and Larry wasn't going to have that kind of attitude or those expectations. There wasn't going to be star trailers. There wasn't going to be, anything like that. It was a street movie in the sense that the story was set in the streets of New York, and populated by many of those young people who were pretty damn amazing. And even I'll tell you a story about that, and we'll see if we have to edit anything out. I don't know, but our director of photography, Eric Edwards, wasn't available. He was finishing up a Gus Van Sant movie when we started prepping. So we had scouted a bunch of the locations 3 weeks before he came on, and then he was only going to have like a week of prep at the end. So we were taking him back to a location that we were thinking about shooting at that worked for the director. And Harmony came along with us. And I had just had this conversation with the casting director right before we went on that little scouting trip to take Eric to see this building that we wanted to shoot at. And the casting director was like pulling her hair out because now we were about a week away from shooting. And she had been for 2 months solid. She'd been at all these nightclubs, in New York City, where the kids were partying and taking drugs and all this stuff because they wanted authenticity in these kids. And one of the kids, the character Ruby, had to be this Puerto Rican girl. Had to be kind of, she was a teenager in the story, but she also was supposed to have this kind of sexual awareness, and so it was really almost an impossible casting mission for her. And she was like telling me this right before we left the building to get in the car to go and take Eric to look at the location. So we get to the location over in Alphabet City, which is, at that point, it was kind of a slummy area on the east side of the Greenwich Village in Lower Manhattan. And we get out of the car, and as we're walking down the street, on one side of the street there was a photo shoot taking place for what was then a brand new magazine called Vibe Magazine, which dealt with hip hop culture, and they were taking pictures. There was like a photo shoot there on the corner. Directly across the street from that was a brownstone, and there was a stoop that kind of slanted up to the door, and there was a big lady drinking a 40-ounce bottle of Old English malt liquor. And a guy was sitting next to her, and then there was this younger woman, young girl, really, sitting on the stoop right below. And as Harmony got out of the car, I get out of the car. Eric's in the front seat. He gets out, and him and Larry start walking down the street, midway down the block. And I'm looking over at this girl sitting on the stoop, and Harmony says, "Ben, what's up?" I said, "Well, I had this, just this girl here." She said, "Well, go talk to her." And I said, "Oh, yeah, okay." And the three of them kind of go up the block, and they look at the location. I go over, and I start talking to the girl and the big lady, which turned out to be this girl's mother. And we're talking for about 5 minutes, and, I said, "Hey, how do you do? What do you do? Blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Well, I'm an assistant director. We're getting ready to do this film here in the area. It deals with a lot of, young people's challenges, and there's a story about AIDS in it." And the lady says, "Well, my daughter's always wanted to be an actress." I said, "Oh, really? Very cool." About that time, Larry and Harmony, they're heading back to the car, and says, "Hey, guys, come on over." So they come over, they join us, we're all talking. We get invited into their apartment. The girl shows us, "Hey, this is where I sleep here on the couch. It's a 1-bedroom. The mother and the guy that was sitting there too was the stepfather." And we talked for probably at least a half an hour more. And we said, "Well, look, if this works out, you have to come by our production office, pick up a copy of the script." They said, "Great." Well, they came by, they got the script, and by 9 p.m. that night, Rosario Dawson was cast in the role of Ruby.
Amazing.
It's just
Amazing.
That's one of those kind of things you look back on a career and say, "Oh my God."
Yeah. I mean, there's a handful of you that know that story, that were there, right? But she's gone off to this giant career.
Yeah.
Had that not happened back then, who knows?
I know. Next time after that movie, the next time I saw her, she was in Spike Lee's He Got Game, opposite Denzel Washington.
Yeah, you should have offered to rep her. Like, just 2%. That's all I need. Lifetime earnings, 2%.
Yeah, get a VIG here. I need a VIG. I get the vigorish.
That's an amazing story. Rewinding a little bit, you
exactly. I put in my own sound effects.
Thank you. We don't need to add anything. Born in Duluth.
Born in Minneapolis.
Oh, you were
actually.
okay.
We born in Minneapolis, and then we moved to Duluth after moving back from Chicago when I was about 4, and parents were, the relationship was on the rocks, and eventually got a divorce when I was 5. So grew up in Duluth and then came back to Minneapolis to go to the U.
Yeah. And then, you got a itching to work with Spike Lee.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I did.
How would that work out?
Well, I was at the annual National Association of Black Journalists convention, and they screened She's Gotta Have It, and I was sitting there with my classmate, Michelle Norris, who went on to work for NPR and
Google Michelle
Washington
Norris,
Post.
yeah.
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 And to this day, we're still wonderful friends. And we were there and said, well, let's see this movie. It was like this screening, and we needed to fill time, I think. And we see this movie, and at the end of it, the lights come up, and there was big applause. There was laughter throughout, and I was just left. When you get those little hairs that go up on the back of your neck, because I realized what the director of the film had done. And it was pretty extraordinary, I thought, because here's a pretty young African-American male director telling this really feminist, story about and contrasting the double standards, the social double standards of the situations when a guy has multiple partners, and when a woman does, there's a distinction that the guy is, hey, he's a stud, he's, but if it's this woman that has, 3 boyfriends, and she's sexually active, that's, there's a different take on that,
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. And he'd done it in such a creative way, and it was comedy, and it was a sexy girl, and all 3 of these male suitors, they were all very distinct. Greer Childs, he was the handsome model, chiseled body, Then you had the middle guy, Jamie Overstreet. He was kind of the goofy but humble but caring guy. And then you had Spike, Mars Blackman,
Mm-hmm.
who parlayed that character into an entire Nike career with Michael Jordan. And I got to work on some of those commercials, those Nike commercials, back in the 90s. And, it was an incredible feat. And this was a guy who didn't just luck into this. He really, he graduated Morehouse as an undergraduate, and he said, I want to go to film school and really become a master filmmaker. And I didn't know all this at the time I saw the screening, but the what I saw on the screen was so impressive. I said, wow, I got to watch to see what else this guy does. I never even conceived that was a career that was open to someone like myself. Filmmaker. Wow. Okay.
They do that somewhere else, right?
They do that in Hollywood or someplace. I don't know where they do. I didn't even think about it being done. You see movies,
Yep.
you just think that they just happen on their own.
Same way. Yep.
And you almost need someone either in the industry that says, look, here's how we do this. And Spike was great because at that time when he was doing his movies, when he did She's Gotta Have It, he wrote a companion paperback book talking about how he did it. Same thing with School Days, which was the second film, then Do the Right Thing. And he'd put out these companion books and dedicate a chapter to the filmmakers. And then Ernest Dickerson got to talk about cinematography. Ruth Carter, who now has 2 Academy Awards on her show, costume design. Robbie Reed was his casting director. She had a chapter dedicated to, what do you look for in casting different roles in movies. And what I didn't understand, it was a whole art form in each one of those components. And as the director, you need to have some awareness, some knowledge of those things before you could ever become really a capable director. And the more of those categories and art forms that you can at least have some fluency with, the better filmmaker you're going to be, the better director you're going to be, the better leader you're going to be, because then you at least know what you're asking those people to do and how hard it is. And it's amazing that you can tap into these people that have that expertise and it benefits your film, you know. So, you know, it's definitely a collaborative. Yeah.
Incredible, yeah.
And
So you saw the movie, and then did you write him a letter, or what was
2 years later, it was now that was in so that was in '86. So in '89, I was finishing up at the U. I'd taken like one class, you know, a quarter, you know, just to so I could still work at the Minnesota Daily as a, you know, that was a side hustle. And I'd made the decision to give it a shot, you know, to leave journalism or, you know, take some time off from journalism. I said, I'll give it 2 years. And if it doesn't go anywhere, I can always come back. And I thought that was my plan. So I got to a certain point, and in the summer of '89, after Do the Right Thing had come out, and another revolutionary film, I said, okay, I had done my research because in addition to those companion books, I had read those, so I read everything I could, and then it was September. A friend of mine said, "Hey, you know, I hear Spike's going to do another movie." I said, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, okay. She said, why don't you write him a letter?" I said, "Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, I'll do that." So I literally, I remember this clearly. It was a Friday afternoon. I sat down, I wrote this letter, and I referenced some of the things that we've talked about today. Um, and I just asked, hey, you know, if there's an opportunity to come out and work on one of your films, I'd really would be pretty amazing, and I'd be grateful. And I said, you know, I got to get this letter in the mail. I'm going to take it to the airport and send it out in the airport post office, you know, just get it out. I sent it out. The following Tuesday, I get a call from one of the production assistants that was working on his next project. And I didn't even know when it was going to happen or anything. And it was a production assistant named Eric Knight. And he said, hey, you know, we got this letter, but I got to tell you, you know, we filled all the production assistant jobs, and there's not really a paid position left for you to do. And he could tell that I was kind of disappointed, and you know, he could hear my kind of eagerness, and
Mhm.
you know, in the call. And he said, "Well, let me ask you this: if would you be able to come out to New York, work for free, put yourself up, and you know, and work as an unpaid intern? You would have exactly the same responsibilities as the other production assistants, so you'd be learning along with them. If you're interested in that, I can check to see if we could, you know, make that available." Yeah, that sounds amazing. I said, let me check. I said, he said, okay. You know, can you be here on Thursday? Now, this was a Tuesday. You know, I had another part-time job in addition to working at the Daily. I had taken a hotel doorman's job that was at you know, a boutique hotel downtown Minneapolis, and I had to go in and check with my boss there if we could have. I needed 10 weeks off. You know, can I do that? And I had to find someone to sublet my apartment, and I found a friend of mine whose brother needed an apartment for a period of time. So everything was kind of falling in place. So this is pretty amazing. So I called Eric back, and I said, yeah, I can do it. And like I said, he said, "Can you be here Thursday?" I said, "I can't be there on Thursday. When do you guys start shooting?" He said, "We start the following Monday." So from the time I got that phone call on Tuesday, the job was going to start the following Monday, less than a week from that, when I mailed that letter and stuff. And I said, "I'll tell you what, I will be there Monday morning. You know, what time should I be there?" Well, we usually have a 6 a.m. call at the time. I said, "Okay, can you send me the address where to show up?" And I that Friday, I packed up my car, uh, drove from Minneapolis. You know, I stayed over in Indiana or someplace, and then drove the rest of the way into Staten Island, where my sister, who I didn't even grow up with, my half sister. And I asked her, you know, before I got on the road, I asked her if it would be okay with her and her husband Stanley if I come back and, you know, stay with them for 10 weeks, you know, for free. And she said, "Well, let me talk to him about it." She called me back and said, "Okay, here's the deal. We're going to let you come out. But on the weekends, you have to agree to vacuum all 3 floors of the house. They bought this big house in Staten Island,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to do the dusting, and you have to clean the bathrooms. I said, deal. So now I got a place to stay. I'm driving my car out, and I was working out the logistics. So I get there that Sunday night, and I figure out the ferry boat schedule because I didn't want to drive because I didn't have I wasn't being paid anything. I had to leave my front door at 4 a.m. To be able to be there in time for the call. I had to get out, and it took me about 20 minutes to walk there. And at 5, I could get on the ferry, and it took about 25 minutes or so to get across. And then I had to get on the train, and I got to the set about 5:30 in the morning. And for one of the first people I saw was Spike pulling up, and he didn't drive, so he got a ride to work. And I'm just kind of excited and nervous, and I wasn't really paying attention. I see Spike, and I kind of slipped off the curb, and Spike looks at me and, you almost busted your ass.
Oh, really?
And that was the introduction.
Oh, hilarious.
So that cut the it cut
Uh-huh.
the atmosphere too. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, no doubt. Fast forward a little bit.
Yep.
Hustle and Flow.
Oh yeah,
Right?
another great.
Did you know when sometimes when you're on set, you're like, okay, this feels like it's working, and then you see the final thing and it does not work at all. Do you have a sense when you're there that you guys had something special?
It was one of the toughest films because we had a lot of crazy stuff that went on during the shooting. But two good things happened. One, I knew the producer really well because he had come out of the Spike Lee camp, and he'd done, I met him there. He's a producer named Preston Holmes. So he was producing along with John Singleton, who I'd met several times. That was good. Right before we did that film, also, I'd worked with Terrence Howard on a movie called Their Eyes Were Watching God that Oprah Winfrey produced. It was a kind of a Sunday night special movie, yeah, and starring Halle Berry. And so I had already known Terrence at that time, and we'd just come off that movie, and we're going right into Hustle and Flow like a month later, start prepping. That movie had a bunch of challenges, including one of our cast members being arrested while we were filming at a maximum security prison. This is all Googleable, so
Public
public information. So that was we had various challenges. Also, it was 90 degrees every day in Memphis, Tennessee, where we shot it, and we were shooting at the same time as the crew that was doing Walk the Line with James Mangold, who just did the I'm not there. He did the other Dylan movie that was just nominated for the Academy Award and stuff.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah. So that was kind of a crazy experience too, but really a wonderful one. And that director, Craig Brewer, I just reteamed with him, and we did part of the series Fight Night, the $1 Million Heist. Back again, Terrence Howard and Taraji both reteamed. We all reteamed for that one, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah, time is a flat circle. For the award season on that one, was that fun to watch? Or were you working on other stuff
for Fight Night or
no? For Hustle and Flow. Yeah.
Oh, it was great.
It was
fun.
like everybody was talking
fun.
about it.
It was great fun because when we did that movie, we built the interior of the set on a sound stage in Memphis, but the actual location was a house in kind of a pretty rough neighborhood of Memphis. But the neighborhood welcomed us. They embraced us. It was pretty amazing, a wonderful experience in that. And Terrence Howard became a star, and so did Taraji.
Yeah.
Really based on that movie, which then led to the later thing I call a spinoff was Empire.
Yeah.
It was like 20 years later after that. That period.
That was a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No kidding. All right, 2 more questions.
Sure.
Can you give us your opinion on kind of the state of the film industry? Obviously, we've been through a whole bunch as of late. Are you pessimistic, optimistic? Where do you think we go from here?
I'm always an optimist. I see.
Couldn't tell.
Yeah. It's such a dour, demeanor. No, I'm always optimistic because, I had never intended to go into this business, and just by the grace of God and by people giving me an opportunity to work in this industry and to shepherd my career, when, there's no way that without champions in my corner would I be sitting in this chair having this interview today, some 35 years after getting started. I started in 1989 on Mo Better Blues. That was that first movie with Spike. And then Spike, at the end of that movie, hired me to work in his production office. So, one of my job was to be his chauffeur and drive him around to different appointments and stuff. And that in and of itself, to be able to have that proximity to him, to see how he did it, how it worked, I want to give that back. So I despite the challenges that exist now, where, with this economy, and we're in the wake of these strikes, the Screen Actors Guild strikes and the industry strikes that took place a year and a half ago. We're back now. We're working again. Now our challenge is to bring film and TV projects here to Minnesota. When I moved back here 7 years ago, I immediately joined the film board here, and I eventually became first the secretary and then the co-chair of the film board, along with Tacey Mangan and Will Prescott. We had a really great team, and we had some great people on that board. And we've been dedicated to get a tax credit that's semi-competitive with other credits here in the country. So we're really committed to bringing film and TV work back here, and in doing so in a way where it's inclusive. All of the communities that make up Minnesota benefit from the jobs that would come from and be able to, have a career and work here at home. And, hopefully that's what we want to create. We'd love to, replicate what they've done in Georgia, what they've done in New Orleans and New Mexico,
And
and
outs-
have jobs in here all the time.
outside of the incentive, what else can we do to make ourselves competitive?
I think we have to first just say, look, let's by hook or by crook, let's make the best independent films we can make for now. Let's tap into the resources that we have here. We have incredible arts resources.
Amazing.
This place we're in right now is a great center and a hub for, artistic activity and filmmaking. And I'm very optimistic. The Minneapolis St. Paul Film Festival, we're on the brink of that this weekend. It starts, or early next week, I guess. And, we've got a lot of great things going on here. Film North has a new office opening, and that's a great resource for people who want to get their feet wet and, help develop careers in the film industry. So I think we've got a lot of pluses. We gotta get shows starting to shoot here, and that's the priority.
Yep.
And train people up,
Yeah.
because right now we don't even have the workforce. We bring in one movie that absorbs all of the crew that we have
Yep.
on the rosters. So.
But I'm sure you've worked with a lot of Minnesotans all over the country who moved away, right?
Yeah.
And would love to come back.
We'd love to bring them back. I've come back now, and I'm looking forward to working here. So there's good things happening.
Yeah,
and
we got the pieces.
we got the pieces. Now we got to just put the puzzle together.
Yeah. Well, amen to that. Every production hits the fan at some point, right? Like it can be a little chaotic.
Yep.
Can you think of a time where something really went off
Sure.
the rails? and how
Absolutely.
you
I'll
got
give
it
you a
back?
really recent one. One of the casualties of the industry is when you don't make your days. And when we were doing Fight Night, that was a series that I mentioned earlier. We were doing that series, and I was supposed to do the pilot episode, which is episode 1, episode 2, and then while they're shooting episodes 3 and 4, we were supposed to prep 5 and 6. Well, they normally, at the outset, they told us we had 12 hours each day, and we had 22 days to do the 2 episodes. So we had to introduce all the characters and all the storylines. We had to organize, 400 extras every day for the fight sequence, and that was over a 4-day period. And all the stuff had to be done in 22 days, And what they didn't tell us was that once we started shooting, about 3 days into production, they said, okay, we told you had 12 hours a day, but you really have 11 hours because we have an edict now from the studio that no one can work past like 13 hours. So with your lunch break, that's 13 hours right there, and they're not going to deduct the lunch and this and that. So anyway, we were disinvited to do our episodes 4 and 5. Or 5 and 6 or whatever it was, so we didn't get to finish our back end episodes,
Oh.
and it's crushing. You feel like you're a failure. Basically you've been fired from the show. Thank God the producer Will Packer and Kevin Hart, who I'd done multiple projects with, they called me on the weekend and said, look, the network says we have to let you go. You didn't make your days, blah blah blah. We know it's not unfair. We'll work together again in the future. But it's crushing. It wipes you out, emotionally, psychologically, and it really shows that you can do everything to the best of your ability. And we had an amazing crew that worked their butts off and delivered that series. And if you watch that series on Peacock, you'll see the work that's in there. And the entire series is excellent. It's really wonderful. But it stings when you can't finish.
Yeah,
something
I mean,
extra.
nobody bats 1,000, right? You've done
Yeah.
pretty well, and you have the resume to prove it.
Yeah, Rod Carew came pretty close. Yeah,
Yeah.
Kirby Puckett.
But yeah, 360 is pretty dang good, right? And
Pretty
you're
darn good.
probably
Yeah,
batting 900. So
yeah.
see you. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure,
This
man.
was incredible.
Well,
And,
thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, I love hearing all the
We'll
stories.
do a
and,
part 2 maybe sometime.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah,
All right.
always here.
All right. Thanks,
you.
guys.
Cool.
Cheers.